Muse for you, awesome websites without code.
Hey, what's up users? John with Muse for You, here to help you build awesome websites without code. And in today's video tutorial, we're going to go over the full screen image and video slideshow widget. So this widget is a lot of fun. You can add full screen images and videos to your Adobe Muse website. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to go over all the widget options and everything you can do with the widget. So let's get started. So here I have an example. It says digital agency. And then here we have a video. We have this loader here at the bottom. This is customizable and you can enable it or disable it. Here we have an image. You can add different Ken Burns effects to the images, and you can add different transitions when the slides come in and out. You can set the duration and everything like that. So here we have a video. Here we have an image. So it's a really nice effect. It can be a really nice way to showcase images and videos on your website. So I'll go ahead and go back to the shop. So we have the slideshow here, and I'll read all the features that are included within the widget. So you can add a full screen slideshow to your Adobe Muse website. There's the ability to add both images and video to the slideshow. You can add up to 12 images or videos. You can add a progress bar to the slideshow. You can set the colors of the progress bar. You can add a color or mesh overlay. You can choose from 24 different transition effects for the slide transition. You can set the transition speed. You can choose from 10 different Ken Burns effects for the slide animation. You can set the animation speed. You can set custom transitions and animations for each slide. You can autoplay the slideshow. You can loop the slideshow. You can have audio play in the video or mute the audio. You can loop the video. You can add custom play, pause, previous, next, and toggle buttons. You can preload the audio and video. And it's very lightweight for your website, and there's much more that you can do with this widget, which I'll cover in this tutorial. And here we have a few of the widget options and the community section if you had any questions about the widget. So I kind of went over that twice, kind of in the beginning and now, but those are all the features, and yeah, this is the widget page. So I'll go ahead and showcase how to use it. So here I'm in Adobe Muse, and the first thing we want to do here is go to the library panel. So here to the right, I'll click on the library panel. If you don't see the library panel, you can go to Window and click on Library. And here I'll type in FIVS, which is short for Full Screen Image and Video Slideshow. And I'll bring in the FIVS widget, the first one. So with the first one, you can set the settings for all the slides. We also have one that says individual slide settings. So you can set the transitions and speed and animation for each individual slide. I'll go over that after I go over this first one that showcases all the widget options here. So here I'll click, hold, and drag, place into Adobe Muse, and I'll go over the options here. So the initial slide, you can start at a certain slide. So 0 is the first slide, 1 is the second, 2 is the third. So the first slide starts at 0. So you can, if you have 12 slides and you want to start on the fifth one, you would enter in 4 for the initial slide. Then the slide duration is how long each slide lasts. So here we have 5 seconds. So 1000 milliseconds equals 1 second. So 5000 is 5 seconds. And you can preload both the image and the video. So preloading, it's interesting. So let's say you have 12 images and you had them preloading. Basically what would happen is that the browser would load all the images when the website is loading. So I don't recommend that too much. Having preload unchecked means that when the image is needed, the browser will load the image, which helps reduce the load time of your website. So if you did want to preload, you could, but here it's initially unchecked. If you just wanted to preload images, you could do that, or if you just wanted to preload videos, you could do that as well. If the video is kind of large, maybe you'll want to preload it, but if it's not too large, then preloading might not be necessary. I recommend keeping videos 4 to 8 megabytes in file size and not really going over that file size for videos. You can autoplay the slideshow. Here, let me zoom in. You can autoplay, you can loop the slideshow, and you can shuffle the slides so they're not in a specific order. Okay, so now let's go to image position. So here you can scale to fill, so the entire image fills the slideshow, or you can, if you uncheck this, it'll scale to fit. and this means that the image will fit within the slideshow. So if the image is a certain aspect ratio, it'll just fit within the slideshow, and there'll be either black bars at the top and the bottom or on the sides. Usually, yeah, it'll be on the sides, the black bars. And then you can center the you can set the alignment for the image. So you can set the alignment to horizontal or vertical. So you can say top, center, top, right, bottom, and left, similar to when you fill a rectangle with an image in Adobe Muse and you select those different boxes there for the alignment. Okay, so I'll say scale to fill here. And then we have transition and animation. So you can set the first transition. So here are the different transitions. You can say none, fade, fade 2, slide left 2, slide right 2, and so on. So there's a few different ones here. And then you can set the first transition. So for the first slide, you can set the duration for that first slide. So here we have it set to 5 seconds for the transition. And then the transition for the rest of the slides is here. So you can select that transition and the transition duration, so how long that effect will go. If this is greater than the, let's see, the slide duration, the slide duration takes precedence over the transition and animation. So even if the transition is, let's say, 7 seconds, the slide duration, the slide would change after 5 seconds. So you wouldn't want this to be larger than the slide duration, because then the transition won't fully finish. Okay, so let's go back in here. So that's the transition duration for the rest of the slides. Then the animation, we have a few Ken Burns effects, so like that zooming in from different angles and things like that. So you can have Ken Burns up, Ken Burns up, Ken Burns down, right, up, right, down, right, and random. Or you could say none as well. Okay, and then you can set the animation duration. Again, it's similar to the transition. You wouldn't want it to be longer than the slide duration. So here we have it to 5 seconds. So everything is set to 5 seconds initially, and then you can play with the timing a bit. But yeah, just remember that the slide duration takes precedence over the animation or the transition and animation. So you wouldn't want that to be larger than the slide duration. Okay, and then we have the overlay. So you can add a nice overlay. You can add a color overlay. If you didn't want an overlay over the slideshow, just set the overlay opacity to 0. So there's no overlay. I'll set it back to 0.6. You can enable a mesh overlay, and then you can add a file for the mesh overlay, or you can go to patternify.com. So if I click here, it'll take me to Patternify, and I can select a pattern here, or I can create my own pattern. And then I just have to copy the base 64 code in here. So I can click once and it'll highlight all of it. And then I can hit Command C to copy. And then I go back into Muse, and let me open it here, go into the overlay section, and just paste that base 64 code in here. And then click enter. And now I'll have that pattern to the slideshow. We don't have any images yet, but here we see the pattern. It might not look so good with recording the screen, so I'll take it off, but there's a pattern to it, and it looks good when viewing in the browser. So I'll uncheck enable mesh overlay, and I'll just have an overlay opacity there. All right, so the progress bar, that's that progress bar that I initially showed in the preview page. You can enable the progress bar or disable it. You can place the progress bar at the top or the bottom. The progress bar height, you can make it thicker. So let me make it, well, I'll leave it at 2 for now. So you can set the progress bar color and the progress bar background color. So I'll go over this a bit more once I add the videos, because it'll be a bit more noticeable. All right, so then I'll go to the images. So I'll add a few images first, and let me just select a few images here just to showcase it. And perfect, add file, and video 4, and I'll add file. Yeah, so basically for each image and video, so here we see it says enable image. So initially when you first place the widget within Adobe Muse, there's 4 images enabled. If you wanted, the rest, or like, let's say I wanted 7, I would go to 5, I would say enable image. I would go to video 6, image video 6, enable image, and then 7, enable image. And I would add slides for those different images. Okay, so 6, and this one, I might have some duplicates here, and then this one and this one. Okay, so I have 7 images, and if we notice 8 enable image isn't checked. So initially image 1 through 4, or the first 4 are enabled, so you have 4 slides that are active when you first add the widget. If you only wanted 2 slides, for example, you could just go to image 4 and uncheck enable image. So to enable an image, just make sure that enable image is checked. Okay, so let's see how that looks like in the browser. So I'll preview, and there we go. So we have the slideshow. We have that progress bar at the bottom. It's very thin because it's only 2 pixels in height, but we have this nice Ken Burns. See, I added the same image for some of the slides, but we have this really nice Ken Burns effect, and we can change that so that it comes in from different directions and things like that. So I'll play with the widget options a bit. I'll go back into the widget. So for the progress bar, let's make the progress bar height, we'll say 10 pixels. The progress bar color, we'll make it this blue, and the background color, we'll make it this green here, so lighter green. And transition and animation, for the animation, we're gonna say random for the Ken Burns. For the transition, let's do zoom in. And the first transition, let's do slide right, just to play around with a few of the options there. So I'll go ahead and preview. So the first image slides right, and then we have the second image, which will zoom in. So we have that nice option. So like however you want the user to experience that first image or video, you can set that transition. And then we have the random Ken Burns effect there, and the image is zooming in. So you can get really creative with these transitions and animations and create a really, really nice slideshow for your website. And we can see that that progress bar is thicker at the bottom, and the colors are changed as well. So let's go back in here. If you didn't want a progress bar, you could just go here and uncheck enable progress bar, and then I'll preview, and now there's no progress bar. Okay, and I'll go back into the widget. Let me bring in the progress bar again, enable progress bar, and this time I'll put it at the top, and yeah, we'll leave it like that. I'll make the background color black so it's a bit more noticeable. Okay, so there we go. We have the progress bar at the top, and we have the image coming in from the right, and then it zooms in. Looks good. All right, so let me change some of these options. So the first transition, I'm just gonna say fade. I'm gonna say fade for both transitions, and we'll just leave the Ken Burns at random here. There we go. I won't really work with the timing because I like the 5-second timing. I feel it's enough time for the transition and animation, and it looks good within the slideshow. Okay, so let's add some video now. So video is fairly simple. Again, you just go to the image / video or the section where you want to add the video. So for the second slide, I want to add a video. So I'll just click here, enable video. If you are adding a video, you want enable image to be checked so that on devices that don't play video automatically, like on most mobile devices and some tablet devices, or I think most tablet devices, the video doesn't play automatically. So the image will show instead, so the user can still experience a nice slideshow, even if the video doesn't play automatically. So here I'll click enable video, then I'll select an MP4 file. So you want at least an MP4 file for your video. Most browsers support .mp4, but you can add .webm and .ogv for fallback support on browsers that might not support .mp4. Okay, so I'll select this video here, and then I'll change the image to the video's poster image. And here I can loop the video. Unless the video is shorter than 5 seconds, it won't really loop. And you can mute the audio. So I'll show an example with audio. What's great about the slideshow is that the audio stops once it goes to the next slide. So it'll just play the individual audio while that slide is in progress, and then it'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'll preview, go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. So the first slide is an image, and then the second slide is this video here. So it's just that simple, really easy. You can have images and videos in the slideshow. All right, so let me add a video with audio so we can take a look. So for section 4, I'll add a video. So I'll add the Muse for You starter, the opener, and there we go. And then for the audio, I want to uncheck mute audio because I want the audio to play. So I'm going to add the opener for 5 as well, because if there's no audio in the next slide, then the previous slide will just continue with the audio. So I'll add the video here. I'll enable video, add file, and select the poster or the video there. So I'll preview in the browser. So we have the first image, the second video, the third image. So here we have the audio.
Awesome websites without code.
Oh, and the audio is muted for this one. So that's just an example. Because the audio is muted, the first audio stopped playing. So that's just to showcase that if you do have multiple videos with audio, the audio will stop for each slide. Okay, so that's basically it for all the widget options. Yeah, here I have some reference on how to use the widget. The video will play in Google Chrome and Firefox when previewing the website locally. So when you're previewing from Adobe Muse, when you go to File, Preview Page in browser, the video will play in Google Chrome and Firefox, and it will play on all other browsers once it's uploaded to a live server. If you are using a program like MAMP that creates a local server on your computer, then it will work on all those different browsers when you're testing on your computer. Okay, so the last thing I'll go over is the widget with individual slide settings. So basically it's all the same thing, except when you open each section for the image and the video, you now have the option to set the slide duration for each slide individually. You can set the alignment for each slide individually, and you can set the transition and animation for each slide individually. So you can have a lot more control as to what animation or transition occurs for each slide within the slideshow. So I'm not going to showcase that too much because all the widget options are the same, except you can now apply them to each slide individually. So yeah, when you open each section, you now have more widget options for each section to customize that individual slide to your liking. Basically, set the transition, animation, and duration, and the image position. But everything else is the same: the progress bar, play buttons, and things like that. So one thing I didn't go over is the play buttons, so I'll go over that really quick. So for this, you can add any element to your Adobe Muse website and then just apply these graphic style names to those elements. So for example, let me see if I can get this one back. Yep, so we have the first one we were working with. So if I go here and I drop in this arrow, and let me resize it to, let's say 100, or I'll do 50, and I'll place it here on the right. And then I'll copy this, place it here to the left, and let me just rotate it by grabbing the corner, and I'll apply the next graphic style name to this one. So I'll go to the graphic styles panel. If you don't see the graphic styles panel, you can go to Window and click on graphic styles right here. So here I'll click on the element, I'll go to graphic styles, create a new graphic style, double click, and I'll call this next. Okay, and then for this one, I'll select the element, go to the graphic styles panel, click on this icon here to create a new style. I'll double click, and then I'll call this PREV for previous. So if we go into the widget options, we see the play buttons. For the previous button is previous, the next button is next. So those are the graphic styles I applied to those arrows, those elements that I added to Adobe Muse. So now they will act as a previous and next button. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. So we have them there. If I click, it goes to the next slide. Click again, goes to the next. I can go to the previous one, just like that. Okay, it's just that easy. And I can position these arrows to the right and the left by either pinning, or I can responsive pin it to the right, select the left arrow, pin it to the left, responsive pin, and I can set the page expansion to point outward so the buttons stay relative to the left and the right side, and the site doesn't stop at the 960 breakpoint, so those arrows are not floating within the middle if the browser window is greater than 960. So I'll go ahead and preview, and there we have the arrows. So let me work on that a bit. And
awesome websites without.
Yeah, I'll close that for a second. So I don't want these to be responsive either, because they'll get larger if the browser width gets larger, or smaller if the browser width gets smaller. So I'll select both of these arrows, go to the resize option, and set it to none. Okay, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and preview. And then we have the arrows on the left and the right. They could be positioned lower, but I would work with that as I'm developing the site. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's for the slideshow. You can also add a play button, a pause button, and a toggle button, which pauses and plays the slideshow. All right, so I think that's it for this tutorial. I went through it fairly quickly. The widget options, they're just, they do pretty much what they say, like the progress bar, overlay, transition, and animation. And the images and videos, you can add the images and videos. Hopefully it was all clear. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. You can also let me know in the widget page if you have any questions about the widget. So it's a really great widget. You can do a lot with it. I know I kind of didn't really go over too much about the page expansion, but I do have other videos on page expansion. I have quick tips on page expansion. As far as positioning the arrows, you could even, pin it to the upper right or upper left so they don't move. If the browser has any more element or more height to it, they'll stay fixed within the browser. You just would want to position it kind of maybe lower here just to get that position, so it's not really centered there, but it's just a matter of working with the development of the site. The last thing I did was add text in the middle, so I'll go over that really quick. So I just said something like digital agency. I'll highlight it and just format the text, so something like this, and we'll say like that, capitalize, or maybe lowercase is cool, and a little bit of vertical spacing or letter spacing. Okay, and I'll center it, and I think that's it. Don't want this video to be too long. Okay, so I'll place that up there, and I brought in the browser centering widget. So I'll type in browser centering, and I'll click, hold, and drag, place into Adobe Muse. The graphics style name here is center 1, so I'll click on this text, go to the graphic styles panel, and call it center 1. Okay, so now it'll be centered within the browser, and I want to put it all the way at the top for the browser centering widget to center it within the browser. So I'll preview, and there we go. So we have digital agency, and we have the slide. Okay, I don't really like that first kind of, the fact that you can see the white background in the back, so I'll just set the Ken Burns to the animation here to Ken Burns. Okay, and I'll make this text white.
News for you, awesome websites without.
Okay, and I'll preview in the browser, and there we go. So that's basically it. That's the full screen image and video slideshow widget. To get access to this widget, you can simply go to museforyoushop.com, and here you can click on subscribe today, and here you can click subscribe now. Let me close this here. Yep, and here you can click subscribe now to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. The full screen image and video slideshow is right here. Here you can click add to cart to purchase individually, or again, you can click subscribe to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. Here are the features included, the widget options. Here's the community section if you had any questions about the widget, the preview page to take a look at the slideshow. And yeah, that's basically it. This video will be here above the community section once I've posted it, so you can take a look here as well. But yeah, that's it for this video tutorial. Again, I do this to help you build awesome websites without code. If you like this video tutorial, you can subscribe below. Also in the show more section below are links to other resources and links to museforyoushop.com. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you.
News for you, awesome websites without code.